Vickers has described it there could cost as much as $40 million.
I can get the appropriation.
Yeah, how? I want to know, how are you going to get the approval of Congress when they're saying no to the Contras for nothing, for $5 million, a request made by the president?
When a black approach makes it through this subcommittee, the full body has to vote on it blind. They know the dollar amount, but they don't know what it's for. So theoretically, your $10 million can become $40 million without anyone ever noticing but the Russian army.
Because Congress wouldn't know what it's voting on.
That's the beauty of it.
All you need are the 9 other subcommittee members.
All I really need is a committee chairman.
Doc Long.
Doc Long.
And when Doc's back in, you'll get the votes of the other committee members.
Yep.
I don't believe you.
I don't care.
Until the phone rang this morning, Charlie, I didn't know. I never heard of you.
Well, ask around.
I did.
What'd you find out?
That your greatest legislative achievement in 6 terms is getting reelected 5 times.
Anything else?
That you hold more IOUs than any member of the House.
How about that?
Charlie Wilson's War is the true story of, you guessed it, Charlie Wilson, a Texas Democrat in the House of Representatives who is known primarily for his womanizing, drinking, and his talent for repeatedly getting reelected despite rarely accomplishing anything of note. But in 1980, these dubious traits helped him to create Operation Cyclone, the biggest, most expensive clandestine war in American history, which secretly funneled billions of dollars in arms to Islamic holy warriors, known as mujihadeen, who successfully threw the Russian army out of Afghanistan and helped bring about the end of the Cold War. And everything worked out great. Or not. Tom Hanks, who also produced the film, plays Charlie Wilson, a man whose personal flaws were matched only by his charm and political gamesmanship. After learning about the underfunded effort to help the mujahideen fight the Russians, then witnessing the horrors of an Afghan refugee camp, Wilson decided to put his unique skill set to work. You see, Wilson sat on the House Appropriations Committee and the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Defense, and he knew how to secure covert ops funding without attracting much attention. While the media focused on Wilson's personal scandals, like an investigation over drug use, he was able to increase funding for the mujahideen from $5 million to over $2 billion. Julia Roberts plays Joanne Herring, an ultra-conservative and the 6th richest woman in Texas. Using her connections and considerable political savvy, Herring was largely responsible for educating Wilson about the suffering of the Afghan people, though it's pretty clear that she only cared about their suffering because it was communists who were causing it. Wilson is also helped by Gus Avracados, a street-smart, straight-talking CIA agent on the undermanned Afghan desk, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. Frustrated by his Ivy League colleagues and their half-hearted efforts to fight the Russians, Avracados teams with Wilson to arm the mujahideen with the shoulder-fired missiles that allowed them to shoot down Russian gunships and finally turn the tide. Yes, the US helped the mujahideen hand the Russians a devastating defeat in Afghanistan, one which the Soviet Union never fully recovered from. But those scrappy Islamic freedom fighters we trained and funded went on to become al-Qaeda, and the fact that the US immediately pulled all its assets and funding out of Afghanistan when the Russians left plunged the country into a horrific civil war, with the Taliban emerging victorious. This is the problem I took into the movie. No matter what happened, all I could think of was that the story I was watching, no matter how funny, well-acted, or charming, eventually led to the catastrophe of 9/11, which caused the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, made the whole world hate us, and hastened our economic decline. To be fair, the movie addresses the fact that the US ruined its victory by muffing the endgame, but this leads to a shift in tone towards the ominous at the end of a movie that is primarily a comedy. But as I watched Charlie Wilson's War again to write this review, I found myself really enjoying what the movie is, not what its story led to. The performances by Hanks, Roberts, and Hoffman are all terrific, particularly Hoffman, who received a Best Supporting Actor nomination for his role and is invariably the most interesting thing in any given scene. The script written by screenwriting all-star Aaron Sorkin manages to condense a 500-page book into an efficient 96-minute film, and on second viewing, I really appreciated how it attempts to address the aftermath of our actions instead of just ending on the high note of the Russian defeat. And the movie was directed by Mike Nichols, who also directed a little movie called The Graduate. So I guess you could say I was eventually won over by Charlie Wilson's War, but I had to watch it twice to get there, and in the end, the lesson I hope we learn from the aftermath of the Soviet-Afghan War seems more important than the man who helped win it. I'm Jonathan Kim, and this is a Brave New Review.